Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Experience series. I'm Kelly Fuller, Director of Workforce with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're discussing alternative paths to fill your tech talent pipeline. Currently, there are close to 3,000 unfilled IT positions in Central Ohio, according to a recent look at Ohio Means Jobs. Today, we'll review the current needs of employers, identify pre-apprenticeship programs, and share some success stories. Just a reminder, this is a virtual program, so we appreciate your patience in case of any technical difficulties this morning. Joining us and part of our discussion is Apprenti. Apprenti is a national nonprofit with headquarters in Seattle that started by serving the Washington State tech community, think Amazon, Microsoft, and others. They were chosen in 2016 as the Department of Labor's industry sector lead for registered technology apprenticeships. Their mission is to add new people to the nation's tech talent pool through registered apprenticeships. They focus on groups that are currently underrepresented in the high-tech IT careers, specifically women, people of color, and veterans. Kevin Gadd leads the Apprenti Ohio office and places apprentices in the Central Ohio tech community. Kevin is joining us on the panel this morning as the Ohio Program Manager of Apprenti, as I mentioned. Also on our panel, Terry Koster, Talent Acquisition Manager at Huntington Bank, Julie Jockum, Talent Acquisition Director at Centric Consulting, and Ben Lahote, Navy veteran and recent graduate from the Huntington Registered Apprenticeship Program. Welcome, all of you this morning, and welcome to our guests that are joining us. I'm gonna just kind of go down the panel and ask each of you, if you don't mind, just taking a minute in introducing a little bit more about your role with your organizations. Kevin, I'll start with you.
Cool. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you had your coffee, and I'm sorry we couldn't provide you with any pastries. So I hope you had your pastries at home. As Kelly said, so I'm Kevin Gadd. I run the Ohio program here, and I specifically place folks into roles here in the Columbus area. I'm a retired Air Force Chief, Master Sergeant. Most of my career was in tech, and then the last 5 years I was the diversity officer for the state. I've been involved with this program since early on, about 2 years, and so we're just a little bit over 2 years of the program, and been placing people for about a year and a half. So we're growing as a national program, but also here in Columbus. So I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate our friends on the panel and the chamber especially. So thank you, Kelly and Hope.
Absolutely. Terry, want to share a little bit about your role with Huntington and your relationship?
Thank you, Kelly. I am a talent acquisition manager at Huntington Bank. My team provides support for all of Huntington Bank's operational areas. So the team consists of 9 individuals. We do about approximately 1,000 hires a year. Our biggest stakeholder community is IT as well as cyber. And we've been involved in partnership with Kevin and Apprenti for close to 2 years now.
Good. Thank you. And Julie.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Jockum, the Director of Talent Acquisition for Centric Consulting. And we are just a little bit about Centric. We're a privately held business IT consulting firm. We've been around about 20 years. And I lead talent acquisition for the Columbus office, but also do a lot of work collaborating with all of our national business service offerings. I've been there just about 2 years in November, and we are definitely looking to do some things that are much more innovative to try to infuse new funnels of talent into our organization across all of our service offerings. And we just started working with Apprenti most recently and just brought on our first 2 new Apprentis, I think in April when it started. So we're very excited to be partnering with Kevin and this group. And I thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you. And Ben.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Kelly. My name is Ben Lahote. I am a Apprenti graduate and Navy veteran, and I'm also part of the mobile application team at Huntington Bank. So I get to work with the team that develops the mobile app, which has been pretty awesome.
Great. Well, we're going to dig in a little bit more on that as the conversation goes on. First, I'd like to, Kevin, kind of ask this question of you, and then if others would like to jump in as well. Typically, when I think of apprenticeships, I think of things that are like in the skilled trades. So we know that apprenticeships are relatively new in the tech field. Can you talk a little bit about the history of that and how this has come about?
Sure. Yeah, and I think one of the key points to remember here for us today is we're talking about registered apprenticeships. So there are a number of programs that have internships and apprenticeships, and they're all good and they're all ways to bring new people into the talent pool. But this is a registered apprenticeship. It's registered by the federal government, supported by the federal government, and so that gives a little bit of benefit to the apprentices. And some protections as well as the companies that are involved in hiring these folks. But like you said, apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship has been going on for almost 100 years. Most of your plumbers, pipe fitters, a lot of drywallers, any of the skilled electricians, they need to go through an apprenticeship, typically a registered apprenticeship. To gain that skill, and registered apprenticeship is just a combination of upfront, consistent training and consistent on-the-job training. It's really all it is, and to make sure that at the end the person is well-rounded. The Department of Labor realized that there was this giant shortage. You gave the Columbus numbers, maybe the Ohio numbers, but across the nation there's tons of open positions, and 4-year and 2-year degree programs can't fill them. And the Department of Labor manages all the other registered apprenticeships, and they decided, why not let's do this in tech? And so they decided to open up registered apprenticeship in technology careers. And then again, Apprenti won that contract to run that program nationally and to make it consistent across the nation. So we follow the same rules, we register in the same programs. At the end, folks get the same certificate of completion from the Department of Labor as your electricians and your plumbers. So it's just a really good way. And, of course, we've been doing this in Europe for quite a while, but it's just a very solid way to make consistent workers in new skilled trades that they're not necessarily used to, and have consistency. So Ben can graduate here in Columbus and he can go to Texas or Hawaii or wherever, and his skills are understood just as if he had a 4-year degree, in his pocket.
Gotcha. Thank you. So Terry, I'll start with you. So Kevin mentioned the benefits of a registered apprenticeship. From a business and industry standpoint, what are some of the benefits to a Huntington?
So some of the benefits to Huntington, when we looked at it, it gave us access to a population of individuals that we may not necessarily see for our technical teams. I mean, yes, we see entry-level folks, but they're for us, it was the target to diversity and veterans that really appealed to us. The other thing that appealed to us was the framework that Apprenti brought to the table. And we have an entry-level training program within Huntington, but this is another avenue for us for us, it was an experiment to see if this would work for us. So the framework, the check-in process, the training process, and really the structure to take the program throughout the first year apprenticeship, and ultimately was the cost of entry as well. So relatively low cost of entry.
Great. So Julie, you said you're relatively new into the process with Apprenti. So can you share a little bit about what your experience has been like so far, how you found Apprenti, and kind of take it from there?
Well, we had found Apprenti through one of our other colleagues who I think knew Kevin from the past, who was doing a lot of business development in Columbus, and then introduced Kevin to myself and our 3 partners that are leading the Columbus office. It's been fantastic. I mean, since one thing I really want to mention, I guess, especially to Kevin, is I think the care and feeding that Kevin and others inside of that organization provide has been amazing. So every step of the way, every piece of that process was laid out for us. So when you come in as a newbie, you don't really know what to expect. He walked us through and spent hours explaining what does it mean, what is that talent pool going to look like, what are the steps we're going to take to get through the process. Everybody that came to the table that we interviewed, we had a lot of information ahead of time, so we knew what we were walking into. We were able to prepare our interview techniques and process around what Kevin had shared. And every single person we saw, honestly, was extremely qualified. It was just then up to us to take that through our fully vetted process to make sure that we had the right cultural fit and the right fit for Centric overall. So I would say the care and feeding to us was huge. One of the biggest reasons why we engaged with Apprenti was to be able to infuse diverse talent pools into our technology service offerings. We do a lot of project work. We're not a staff augmentation firm, but we do get a lot of work that comes in from all of our clients across all of Columbus where they need people quickly, they need it done efficiently, and we truly, because of how tight the labor market is, we're lacking that type of talent. So we thought instead of continuing to have our recruiters, they still go out and proactively source, and we'll talk about that later and the things that we're doing. This gave us another way to kind of, I'd say, grow talent, almost homegrown talent. So people that already have strong, diverse backgrounds in other areas, and they want to learn technology. And then for us to bring that in-house and to be able to continue to train and mentor them is going to be a huge benefit to our internal workforce.
Great. So Ben, I'll ask you the question from the learner perspective. How did you get involved with Apprenti, and what was that process like for you going through the training and the entire scope of your learning so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually before this, and it just kind of segues into actually how I heard about Apprenti. So before this, I owned and operated a meal manufacturing company with my wife called Portion. And we would source local ingredients, put together a menu, post it online. People would order off that menu, and then we would deliver like healthy prepared meals to them. So we had all these ideas of all the cool things we wanted to do with the website. So we went out and got some proposals. And some of the quotes I got back were like $50,000 to $100,000 of all the things that we wanted, which so that's when, I thought I could probably teach myself how to do this and do it myself. And I enrolled into a Udemy course. But honestly, I'm glad that I was able to meet Kevin because I probably wouldn't be at the level I am today if it wasn't for that. So I met Kevin through the CEO and co-founder of Cohatch, Matt Davis. So I was actually in our kitchen, and which was located at Cohatch Library. And I was downstairs in the kitchen, and he came in and asked if I was still trying to teach myself how to code. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you have to meet this guy, Kevin, who just, he's upstairs. He just got this office, and he's running this program for veterans to get into IT. So a few days later, I was literally chopping, peppers, and I was talking to Kevin, and he was telling me all about Apprenti. And I was like, yes, this is something that I really want to get into. I need this opportunity. So, yeah, very, very fortunate for that.
Yeah, that's a great story. The connection, and I'm visualizing all of that happening too at Cohatch. Kevin, I want to ask you too, because we're kind of going down this pathway of finding talent in underrepresented talent pipelines. We talked about Ben's experience as a veteran. You have intentionality around engaging women and people of color. How are you connecting to all of those different populations right now in order to bring them into the Apprenti process?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's what we typically get, because so part of our mission, or our main mission from the Department of Labor, is it's not only to add people to the tech talent pool, but it's to make sure that we're adding people to the tech talent pool nationally that are underrepresented or have a tough time getting in, or can't afford to get in to pay for their own, or can't go to a four-year degree program. And so that's our mission. We take that very seriously. To do that, we have to make sure that our pool of candidates is rich and diverse. And so probably some folks on this call, we try to spend as much time as we can working with local nonprofit groups, workforce development groups, the Chamber, of course. And Evelyn Van Til on our team is awesome, and she spends a lot of time out there explaining what we do to other nonprofit groups, like say workforce development groups that are trying to help people. They're trying to serve these communities, women, people of color, and veterans, and they're working to serve those groups. We want them to know what we do. We want them to send us those folks that are interested in tech careers, and so we spend a lot of time out there cultivating a wonderful pool. Right now we have 417 people that have passed our assessment. So Ben can tell you there's about a 3-hour upfront assessment that's online for math skills, critical thinking and logic skills, and there are a lot of word problems, right? So they've got to pass that just to get into our pool. And only about a third of the people that come to us pass that test. So we have 417 people in that pool right now. And we check that pool. We really focus hard. We support a lot of the local groups, Women in Tech, Black Tech 614, because that's our mission. And we want to serve those folks the best we can. So send us your people if you're out there and that are interested in a tech career. We appreciate it very much.
So an individual comes through, they do the assessment with you. Then what's the next step, Kevin? Where do they go from there after they pass that? And I have to say, based on the assessment, I probably wouldn't make it through. If there's math involved, I'm done. But so if a person is able to pass this assessment, then where do they go from there?
Yeah, so initially, they're going to sit in the pool. So those 417 people are sitting there waiting for me to find them open positions, right? And the positions, so like Ben is software developer, mostly that's what we've done here in Columbus is provide folks at Centric as well. Huntington is software developers. We have a couple CRM developers, so there's Salesforce developers that we've placed at Huntington. So what happens is when I get an open position, I get a work order from one of our wonderful hiring partner companies. They'll list the position, the starting salary, the job title, and then I'll go into that pool and we'll start interviewing. So Evelyn and I will go into the pool. It's a ranked pool, so I know who number 1 of 417 is, and I know who number 417 is. And we start working down that path and just start doing interviewing. They've got to go through 2 interviews with us before I ever send them to a hiring partner. We want to make sure that the folks that we send are top notch. You want to give them a hard time. We give the hiring partners a tough time to make decisions. And so then they'll go to the hiring partner for their interview process. The company will make that decision and then offer that person a conditional offer letter that they must pass the training. So no one goes through training until we have a letter from a hiring partner that they have a job. And then we'll send them the training. We know the local training partners, Tech Elevator, We Can Code It, Prisculus, Goodwill, Franklin, those kind of places. So then they'll go through that training. Then they'll go to the 1-year OJT. Julie, you look like you were going to say something.
I just wanted to add, I think Kevin, something you and I talked a little bit about, just I thought it was interesting in the process too, and is important, I think, when it comes to the diversity and inclusion component that we're talking about, is when you presented other people to us, I believe there wasn't names on their resumes, there wasn't any type of contact information or anything like that. So I was actually kind of surprised when my partner sat down, you didn't necessarily, you couldn't do any pre-homework, you weren't looking at people ahead of time, you literally were just truly looking at what skill sets were on the paper, which I thought was very, very good and very, very helpful. So there's no bias. You're basically just getting to know them, trying to really understand what did they do prior, what skill sets do they have that could be transferable. And ultimately, we spent a lot of time with, I guess we narrowed it down to a group of 3 or 4 or 5, I think, people. And then we were able to ultimately make the decision. And honestly, each one of those people probably could have done something with us. There was just something within them that fit better technically into what we needed at the moment, because we actually took 2 people that were going to be trained in Java, but now we're actually going to probably diversify that and even give them more training so they can do more inside of our organization. But I just think that was important to note that the way that people were presented to us was a little bit different and non-traditional, but I think it's a very positive thing in the process.
That's a good point.
Yeah. In addition to that, we're dealing with folks who primarily haven't had a lot of training yet, so you have to refrain from doing a technical interview. So really, you're focusing on the individual, what their wants, what's motivating them to get into a technical career, and then beyond that, what are they interested in? How do they get involved in Apprenti? And you're looking at it from an overall cultural fit to your organization, which in a lot of ways is more important than the technical acumen.
Yeah, Terry, I would 100% agree to that. So I'd say we did a pretty deep, what I call critical behavior interview to really understand, not only what they, how they do their work and the way in which they do that, which is what you want to assess in a critical behavior interview. But I also wanted to see, I call it fire in the belly. I wanted to understand where was their passion and why did they want to do this? And I'll tell you, everybody had a passion around it. You knew that they really wanted to be there in that room. And that was a real fun part of it too. It was a little bit different than other people that you may interview that have been sitting in the same type of role for a lot of years.
Right.
So it was a good process.
Although I have to say, when we interviewed Ben, he was sitting in Hawaii, so we interviewed him over video conference. So I couldn't understand at all why he wanted to come to Columbus, Ohio, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I actually forgot about that.
Yeah. I didn't know if you're going to bring that up, Terry, or not.
You know, at the beginning, it is very interesting to have that conversation with the talent acquisition leaders at our companies. That I'm going to send you people. I'm not going to even send you their names. So they show up at the office at the time that the company gives me. I walk in and they say, "Are you KG?" And I say, "Yes, I'm Kevin Gadd." And then off we go to the interview. We really believe we want no pre-buys. You don't know if they're male, female, where they're from. We send scores from that assessment. We put a couple bullets that came out of our interview that we think are important. And typically, like if it's a veteran, we'll put the branch they were in, what their role was in the military. If they have a degree in something else, we might include that. But it's really, it takes a bit to get used to. I remember the look on Terry's face going, "Well, wait, I don't get a resume even?" Like, no, you won't even know their name, Terry.
Well, the funny part about that is that, I was perfectly fine with that. I knew my managers that were going to be doing the interviews were going to freak out a little bit. But, they got into it and actually adapted well to it and really praised the process for doing that.
Terry, kind of following along that line, what type of prep, if any, did you have to do to get your hiring managers ready to change this, this way of hiring and interviewing individuals without any, anything other than their initials coming in?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us was just getting managers interested in the program. So, because nobody had ever heard of it before, we had presented it to the CIO. He was on board with it. And then it was really being sort of an evangelist for the program within the IT organization and drumming up interest. Truthfully, when we got to the point of actually, we did have a program sponsor from the architecture team. When we got to the point of interviewing, we actually had a lot of interest from the development teams, including the digital team, to interview and get involved with the program. So the interviewing part is, generating the interest was not the hard part. I think the hard part was really making sure you had the right mentors to take the apprentices through the program.
That's good. Julie, what was your experience like in that? I mean, was it also the connecting to mentors or?
I think Terry said it perfectly. Honestly, it was more about the selling of the program overall. So we just spent so much time up front getting to know what this program was going to be, what it was going to mean to us. And we're a very innovative consulting firm that wants to try different things at all times, especially in Columbus. We try to think outside of the box, and that's one of the reasons why I joined, was to try to build out our talent acquisition capability and do some different things. So there was no hesitation in the sense of getting our partners involved. I think it was a little strange, true, Terry said, when they knew they weren't getting any names or resumes, they're so fixated on that. But we've been trying to teach them that I honestly think as a talent acquisition professional, I don't put a lot of stock in resumes half the time. I want to get to know people. I want to understand their story. We still do technical interviews, of course, throughout our entire process, but we are really looking again more for the right cultural fit and people that we could develop, and then making sure we're aligning a coach, mentor, and buddy with these individuals once they come in to make sure they're successful throughout the process, which is something that we're working through right now as they just joined us.
Very good. So I want to pivot a little bit here, Ben, and come back to you as the learner going through this process. How was it to manage the training that you were going through with the training provider and then coming over to Huntington? I mean, was it a lot of time management, or how did you get through that whole process?
Oh, for sure. It's not an easy process. It's pretty hard. So I had to go through a 14-week boot camp down at Tech Elevator, and Tech Elevator runs, a top-notch program. We'd have to sit in lectures from 9 a.m. till 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and then from that time until whenever we were done, we'd be working on homework or group projects like that. So I was actually getting trained in Java. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks before graduation, Terry and through Scott McCrory, who's the technical person at Huntington for the apprentice program, was asking, the 5 of us some opportunities and where we'd like to go. And he said there's an opportunity in mobile, but you'd have to learn a completely new language called Flutter. And I wanted to work in mobile. I wasn't excited about learning a new language, but I volunteered to do that. So now I work on the mobile app at Huntington, and it's great. I mean, I'm surrounded by great mentors and teammates who've been very patient with my learning curve. It's a lot harder now that we're working from home. I can't elbow the guy next to me anymore and ask for some advice. But it's great, especially during times like these where people are actually relying on the mobile app more versus actually going into the retail branch. And it's only going to increase even more the mobile capabilities that we're working on. So it's really exciting.
So how far are you into this process? When did you start? And then
So I actually started January 2019. So about 1 year and 7 months now. I just graduated right at the end of April, officially graduated, have my certificate. So now I'm technically a full-time employee of Huntington.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Julie and Terry, I do want to ask you, from a workforce perspective, in my role, I'm always trying to help our chamber members find talent pipelines and connect them. And I know that IT continues to be, a huge opportunity for individuals to get into this field. What challenges are you seeing in the market right now with hiring IT talent? Julie, I'll start with you.
Oh, goodness. Where to start? Well, I'd say before the pandemic, it was extremely, extremely difficult. I mean, and I'm sure Tara probably attested to this. I think the war for talent specifically, I can speak nationally, but I could also just speak Columbus-wise. It's just very tight. And these people, the good ones can go where they want to go. They can pick and choose the roles. They can decide, they can really at times dictate what they want to get paid. And then they go really quickly. So especially for us being in a consulting firm, we don't carry a bench. So typically our people are always very, very busy. And then when we need to go out and infuse in new talent, our recruiters are proactively sourcing. I mean, deeply, they're amazing sourcing technologists that know how to go out and find talent. But even with the tools that we're giving them and trying to continue to give them, it's still very difficult. So I'd say the availability of resources is lacking. So limited talent pools. The contract workforce is very tight, and we do need contract consultants. And then now with everything happening with the gig economy, which is another big topic I'm actually on a panel this week to talk about, is just how do we engage with the gig economy, with people in the gig economy, and they are in the control of what they want to do and where, when, and how they want to do it. And it becomes difficult to keep those pipelines of people warm as well in order to get them onto our clients. So those are some of the biggest challenges that we're definitely facing right now.
Yeah. Terry, what about you?
So I agree with a lot of what Julie said. So the tech market for talent has always been competitive. I've been doing this a long time, and from day one, it's just been dog eat dog to find talent. But I think the market that we're currently in presents a number of challenges and also a number of opportunities. In terms of the challenges, we're in a time now where people are a little bit more reticent to make a move. The devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't. Finding people has become a challenge. The other part of that is with video interviewing, people are getting interviews faster so that we don't have to worry about travel arrangements. We don't have to worry about schedules. We just set up phone calls, video, go. So, entry to market, speed to hire has increased dramatically in the last 3 or 4 months. So you compound that with the scarcity of resources that are out there. Now, the flip side of that is, for Huntington, we were an organization where everything had to be centralized. Our operations center is over at Easton, and we hired folks to work in Columbus at Easton. Well, now managers are a little bit more open to look at people from other locations because they've gotten used to managing a remote workforce. So they're not, I mean, in most cases, they still want people who are local, but more and more managers are open to other markets and hiring people in other markets, managing a workforce across different geographies. So that's opened up some opportunities for us.
Yeah. To that end, I'm sorry, Julie, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that is just another really good point that you made is that most of our clients typically wanted people on site. That was always the way. Everybody's got to be on site, which made it really hard for us at times because we would find some great talent that could be remote, and our clients didn't want that. But now that people can be remote, it's opening up a lot of things. But I think the point that I wanted to add to is the speed to hire. I mean, you have to be able to move so quickly, and that's something that at times we struggle with because if all of our people are billable and busy, to get enough people to tech talent, like to find talent that can be the subject matter experts that are doing the technical interviews, becomes really tough. So even if we're building big sourcing pipelines and recruiters have enough people to get them through quick enough from the time they're identified to tech to a behavioral interview to close is tough. So we lack sometimes that availability to move people fast enough, and then we might lose out to another organization. So to add to that point.
That's a good point. I do want to talk a little bit about, this expansion of sourcing talent from different geographies. Kevin, Apprenti is a national organization. What changes are you seeing, around sourcing talent, and now that we're living so much of our lives remotely?
Yeah, exactly. This is really good for us. When folks come to us and they apply in our program, once they pass that assessment, they can actually choose 3 cities that they would be interested in working in. So just out of the 29 people that we've placed in the program here so far, I think 10 of them have moved to Columbus, Ohio for roles here locally. So we do a lot of work at Joint Base McChord, which is a base where a lot of people out process in this Washington area. So we get a lot of veterans that are out processing from all over that western part of the United States and the Pacific. They're out processing through that. They hear about us, they sign up. And so I've done interviews, with a lot of people across the United States. We were laughing earlier. Ben did his interview from Hawaii. He was on vacation, but we do a lot of remote interviews with folks. So it's really helping us. That ability to have three locations. We have an office in Cincinnati. So the Cincinnati Chamber and Christina Masali runs the program in Cincinnati. So in Ohio, we share back and forth a lot if we have openings in each side. So, we're sourcing from all over Ohio a lot. It tends to be veterans only that we bring in from outside, but we have overall across the United States, I think we have 8,000 people that have passed that test that are in our system. Only 417 have chosen Columbus, Ohio, but we have a ton of people across the United States. And obviously with this, the stuff that's going on now, we're seeing definitely increased applications to our program for sure.
That makes sense. So then we know you're a software developer, correct?
Yes.
So what are some of the other certifications and credentials that individuals can get through this program, Kevin, in addition to software development?
Well, so again, we do software development mostly here, and there's really no credentials or certifications that come with that. You graduate a tech training program like Tech Elevator, you've got that certificate for that. Of course, everyone that goes through our program and completes the program like Ben did gets a journey level worker certificate, the same one your plumber would have from the Department of Labor, except his says software analyst, not plumber. So they'll get those certifications. Those are the things that are portable throughout the United States. If we're filling other roles, tech support type where they need A+ or Network Plus, if you're looking to fill a role that needs a certification, like our CRM developers at Huntington, that is baked into the process. So for them to get that DOL certificate at the end where they've graduated and they're a journey level worker, if there's a certificate or some kind of test they have to pass through that process, that's listed on there. Everyone knows it. The company knows it. The apprentice knows it. And so then they have to complete that at some point throughout the process. So it's really dependent on the very specific job. And that's what's really cool about the standardization and, that we file with the feds and with the state is we file that. So the state has it on record what it takes to be a software analyst journey level worker. So anyone that wants to run the program has to follow those same standards.
Gotcha. So how is this funded, Kevin? I mean, are there grants that are attached to this, or what does the funding stream look like for an individual to get the training and the placement with an organization?
Yeah, very good question. So our national expansion is primarily funded by the Department of Labor. So when we won that contract to be the national practice lead for tech apprenticeships, we were funded, and that funding works to grow us nationally, open new markets. We're almost 20 markets now across the United States. I met Kansas City people yesterday. So that DOL money is helping us to expand. We also have some DOL money to help pay for training. No apprentice has paid anything for their training. So everyone that comes into our program gets their training for free. And we use a combination of grants, and the companies pay for some of it as well, depending on how many grants we can get locally. In Ohio, we have a wonderful grant from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. So they have funded us for training and for operational and promotional type events. They're very supportive of us because we're new and they've been asked for this for quite a long time. So JP Morgan Chase, their philanthropy division, has also funded us as well to get a foothold here in Columbus and in Cincinnati. So we have a variety of funding sources, but at the end of the day, the goal is that the apprentice doesn't pay for it. If the apprentice could pay for it, they probably wouldn't come through our program, right? And so that's one of the things that we believe in really strongly. That helps people that are in underrepresented groups get into tech careers. We take care of all that. We find the jobs for them. We support them all the way through. So funding is important, and we really appreciate our funding partners for sure, because we can't grow any other way.
Right. Julie, what would you, because talk about from Centric's perspective, what would you share with other businesses that might be considering moving, this direction, working with a partner like Apprenti? Are there things that you'd like them to know, or that would be encouraging, or some aha moments from your experience so far? And I know that you've just kind of gotten into it, and I'll pose the same question to Terry as well, who's a little further along in the process.
Yes, we're so new. I guess I would just say be open-minded. I mean, to me, I just think trying new things is what you need to be doing in talent consistently. And I guess positively, again, the partnership, the information, the sharing of knowledge, and being kind of handheld through the process is what I would think somebody would really gravitate towards. And quite frankly, it's a very cost-effective way to do something in this day and age, and everything else is so cost. Some of the tools that we're using and so forth that aren't reaping as many of the benefits, we're thousands and thousands of dollars we're paying for those. So it's just to me, it's another tool in our talent acquisition toolbox that we now want to use innovatively and see where it takes us. And I also just think, to me, it's helping people. And I'm all about, personally, and I think Centric, our message is all about how do we help others? How do we do the best thing for the right people? How do we find great people that want to develop themselves in a different way and actually give them the ability to do that? And I've not seen a lot of that before. So to me personally, it's very rewarding. I think it is for Centric because it ties back to all of our core values and our mission and vision of who we are as a consulting firm. So you will get the support. It's new and fun and exciting. You're getting to meet great people that really have passion for what they want to do and how they want to develop themselves. And I think then they will then talk about the program, and it will continue to grow. And we're supporting something with a great cause. So those are just some things I would share.
Thank you. Terry, what about you?
I think the biggest thing that I would share is the mentorship that the apprentices receive throughout their year-long apprenticeship with the organization is, I can't stress it enough. It's just really, really important. At the outset, we had a lot of managers step up and say, we'd like to be part of the program. We tried to select teams that had the capacity to bring somebody on and have a continual mentorship with that individual. I'm not going to lie, we did have some some bumps along the way. Because up front, and now we have more experience with it, but myself and some of the managers did not really fully appreciate the amount of commitment that it takes from their part, as well as the partnership with Apprenti as a whole. The apprenticeship framework is wonderful. It keeps everybody honest along the process, but the managers need to understand what that commitment is up front. So we really learned from that with the first cohort. With the second cohort for Salesforce, we know we have a team that is really committed to training and mentoring individuals. They have a past record of doing that. So we feel really good about the success of the second cohort as well.
Right. So then from a learner perspective, what would you share to an individual who might be looking to go this route? What are some things that you've learned and some maybe some cautionary moments as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, I credit, everything to Kevin and Apprenti. Just that combination of the education and the placement and everything is just, it's totally set up for success. But as a participant, you have to put in the effort. It's not easy, or everyone would be doing it. But especially as a veteran, like you got through military training, you can get through this training. It's more mental toughness, but if you believe in yourself, you believe that you can actually do it. Just put in the work, put in the effort. Maybe you don't sleep that night, but it's okay. The goal is getting through the program and learning these skills, and actually, contributing to the company that hired you. So I will say that if you're nervous, if you feel like, 10 years ago, I never thought that I would be a software developer. In the Navy, I was an MP. So I always thought I was going to be in law enforcement. I barely know how to check my email. And now I'm a software developer. So I think that, it's not possible. There's a ton of opportunity. Really give it a good look. And you can get through the program. You really can.
That's great.
Well, one thing I want to add to that, and I appreciate all of you saying those wonderful things. Thank you. We don't, I think you've heard it through this too, Kelly. We don't just pick people, shove them into jobs, and off we go. That is not our mission. We are a nonprofit who leads with our heart, right? And so, we support our apprentices while they're in the technical training. We take them food. We go support them. We send them little love notes. Our job is to make them successful. That is it. When they get to the OJT portion, we are there. We check in with them. We do regular surveys with the supervisors and the apprentices to make sure things are on track. And as Terry alluded to, it's people. It's people on the supervisor side and people on the apprentice side. And sometimes you got to get all the people on the same phone to get them all on the same page so that we can push through some normal issues that anybody would have, right? But that's really important, I think, and I think you heard that throughout from our folks. We have a relationship with our apprentices. We are very, very supportive of them. And again, Evelyn Van Til on our team kind of leads that for us right now, and she's doing a great job supporting them. Because again, so Ben is Ben is the guy telling everyone to give this a shot. If we didn't do a good job, he wouldn't be telling people to do this. Wouldn't be suggesting it. So it's again, it's something very important to us that at the end of the year of OJT, we kind of glossed over this, but so Ben did his 14 weeks of training at Tech Elevator. Then he did 1 full year of a structured OJT. So he had to track his hours every week. We had to review his hours every week to make sure he was getting a full breadth of experience, so that when he finished, he understood at least all the various components of being a software developer. we check on all that to make sure it's good. And so it's a long process, and that's what the graduation is. And at the end of that year, the apprentice and the company get to decide: are we going to remain together and make them a full-time or a fully qualified, if you will, member of that development team or that technology team. So it's for Ben, it was 16 months, 17 months of hard work just to get to the point where he's now qualified and doesn't have to track his hours with us anymore and gets his certificate of completion. So it's a long process, and we want to make sure we're supporting them all the way through that.
So how does a business get involved, Kevin? So if someone that's like visiting with us today as one of our guests wants to engage with Apprenti, what does that look like?
Call. Just call. It's fairly simple. Again, because these are new entrants into the tech talent pool. It takes a little bit of forethought, right? You can't. We're not a placement, so you can't call us up and go, "Hey, I need somebody next week," because you have to find the people in the pool. We have to let you pick the ones you want. We've got to send them through training. So a class that starts in September for training, they're going to be done and ready for you in January. So the first thing you have to do is find those positions that are okay to fill with new folks. These are middle-level jobs with entry-level skills, is what we say. We don't tend to do a lot of IT support or help desk stuff. It's cybersecurity. It's it's Salesforce developers. It's software developers, business analysts, IT business analysts, database administrators, things like that. So you've got to find those roles that you typically maybe have classified as hiring somebody. I'm looking for somebody with 1 to 3 years experience. That tends to be what we fill. Because if you're looking for somebody that could have 1 year experience, why not find somebody in this giant pool of diverse, mature talent and let them get that 1 year of experience with you, so they understand your culture, they understand what you're doing, and then at the end of that year, pay them as a 1 to 3 year experienced person. So identify those roles that are valid for filling with an apprentice. 2, call me. And there's the basic paperwork we have to fill out, and then we talk through what kind of person you want. What kind of experiences are you looking for, and then we'll go to work. Then we'll find those people. We'll find the training for them. We'll find the dollars to support the training for them, and then we'll do all that. And then we'll bring you great people like Ben to for you to choose from and to hire, and then then we'll put them through that training.
Very good. I'm going to look and see if we've got some questions that have been coming in.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, where'd you go? You disappeared on us.
Sorry about that. I'm back. So one of the questions that has come from the group so far is when we go back to talking about the hiring process, and you talked about how you minimize a lot of the identifiers that are on a resume or an application. The question is, does that also apply to like volunteer work or other things that might give some insight into, more about a person? Is that, what exactly does that application and what all does it entail, and how do you minimize?
Sure. So again, like I said, so what we'll give the talent acquisition team is the initials of the person, the scores of those 3 tests. Again, math, critical thinking and logic, and soft skills. You'll get the scores that the person got on those tests. And then you'll get 4 or 5 bullets that from our sets of interviews with that person, we think are valid. 100%. If they've got a volunteer, they're on a committee or they're doing something as a volunteer, that tends to make it on our list of bullets. If they have a degree, that may or may not make it on the list. I mean, we want to display the things that give you a sense that this person is an overachiever, that they are full of grit and determination, that they understand the rigors of going through 14 weeks of boot camp training and then, showing up the first day and needing to learn a new piece of software, right? You're looking for somebody that you don't know all that, but you're like, I need to get a sense that this person can do that. And then the rest of it, and maybe Terry and Julie could talk about this, but I don't know how much you probably glance at those bullets, but the whole decision is made, and it's meant to be made when that person is one-on-one with the hiring manager. You can ask them anything you want at that point. But again, it's not a tech test because they're not in tech, right? But you're trying to get the sense of that they have that. So we give you enough just to seed the conversation. But I think then I know our hiring managers have just dug deep into it when they're interviewing our people.
And I would just say add to that we infused several people into the process. So we did more of a panel. So we don't really have offices. We have one office downtown, and that's just really our I guess I'd call our center where a lot of our architects work and so forth. But we had a room nicely set up there and got coffee and so forth, and just had people come in one-on-one. But it was myself leading talent to talk with them versus the recruiters. I kind of wanted to take that really get involved in the process. We had one or two partners come in that have been with our firm for over 15 years. It literally started off, coming at the manager level, and now are running the office. And then we prepared in advance what types of questions we wanted to ask from a behavioral perspective, and made sure each of us were doing something different, not being redundant. So to Terry's point earlier, being very prepared for how that's going to go. But then we made it very informal. Centric is more that way anyway. We didn't want people to feel nervous. We sat around a table, had coffee, and truly just talked about who they are, what they want to do, why they're in this program, and really got into our culture of our firm and expectations that we have and how we mentor and train, how we review people. And we were an open book and let them ask whatever they would like. So it was definitely a two-way street. And they came very prepared with a lot of questions, and they did a lot of homework, which I thought was impressive as well.
Yeah, so we did a panel style interview as well. I think Ben only met with Scott and myself, but in general, we usually had managers, developers on the team, and those managers can be anywhere from a project manager, program manager, director, and so you really only have one shot to get it right or to make a decision. So they're coming in, you're going to spend an hour with them, so you really wanted a lot of different perspectives in the room. We're not asking technical questions. Again, it's motivational and what interests them and cultural fit. So you need to have people from different groups, different development areas to add that perspective to the interview process. And we found that to be extremely helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kevin, I also want to ask you a little bit about during the initial assessment with the soft skills. I mean, how are you identifying, how someone does in that? And I guess I would argue sometimes I don't know that they're soft skills as much as they're critical skills, but I know we use the term soft skills, but what are you looking for?
So first, it's an assessment. So it's a 14 question assessment on word problems. What would you do in this situation? What would you do in that situation? So that's the assessment, but it's only 14 questions. We really make that decision when they come interview with us. We'll do a phone interview with them and start to get a sense of that. And then we'll do a 1 hour in-person interview with them right here in the lovely Cohatch in downtown Worthington. And so then we can really get a sense, and we have, again, we have a consistent set of questions throughout the United States. Every program uses the same set of questions, and it's designed to draw those things out, and then we score it and then, make the decisions. And then again, we send at least 2 times the number of people that you have open positions. So, on Huntington had 2 software developers or Salesforce developers. Centric had 2 software developers. I think we sent 5 or 6 people to each of those interviews, because and from that, we probably interviewed 25 or 30 to get it down to those 6. So we're very, very critical because we want to make sure we're sending the best people to these interviews. So it's a process of the assessment and then our in-person interviews. And we tend to have at least 1 or 2, sometimes 2 people on the interviews here locally just to make that decision.
Yeah. So Julie, when you're looking at a potential candidate, and we're still in that kind of soft skills / critical skills space, what are you looking for? How are you determining, if a person has those kind of good communication skills or problem solving skills?
Well, I mean, definitely asked a lot of questions around problem solving and how they think through things. And we ask a lot of questions about that kind of situational type of behavioral type of questions. I think what's really important, especially in consulting in general, is people have to be very comfortable working in the gray. You come into a consulting firm and it's different than corporate. It's not, here's your exactly defined job description, here's your exact career path. You have to be able to be very agile and be able to go in and do a lot of different things, because we have multiple clients in Columbus, multiple clients globally, and you could be working on multiple different things. So we really have to dig into their ability to be able to, again, be agile, think quick on their feet, not get frustrated easily, being able to work with all types of different diverse types of clients, be able to be adaptable. Those are some of the things that we're really looking for, and they have to be able to speak to those things and provide stories and tell us about how they've been able to work through those things. And it doesn't matter if they did it in tech, it just, how did they handle it in the other jobs that they had before? Because those are really, really critical skills for consulting. You can't do that and you expect everything to just be handed to you and here's your 10 things you do. For us, that's not it. That consulting is very different that way. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that, and that is something that I hear from businesses in all different industries every day. Is there's a technical skill component that businesses are looking for, but also the soft / critical skills around problem solving and communication.
And I would also, I think, the ability, and I think someone else said this earlier, the ability to roll up your sleeves. I mean, we have. And I've been in very large consulting firms like Arthur Andersen back in the day and Hitachi, but I would say what's consistent throughout the thread is you have to be able to roll up your sleeves. You have to be willing to, at one moment, you're way down here in the weeds, and the next minute you're going to be having to think strategically. So you have to be willing to kind of just dive in and do what's ever needed and be able to work highly. It's a very collaborative environment. That being said, sometimes you're on your own. So I know you were mentioning before, when you go in and you're remote now, you might not have somebody to knock elbows with. I think that people have to think about that too, because you might not always have somebody right there with you. However, remotely, we're using Teams and other things so that you can just get right on, and you're struggling with something, people just pull up a screen and they're showing you, walking you through things and still giving you that mentorship that you need as well.
Yeah. So Ben, not to put you on the spot with Terry sitting here, but what are your plans? What's the future look like for you in this world?
Well, I really enjoy working at Huntington and getting all the experience. But I'm also an entrepreneur as well, and I'm thinking it's just in my blood, I guess. I'm always thinking of ideas. So my plan is to continue with Huntington until one of these ideas, if they do take off. But so one of the things that we're working on, I started my own freelance company, and I have actually 2 projects that I'm working on. And the first one's for the Cohatch Market located in Springfield. So they created like an open market style concept with co-working, and they have 5 restaurants located inside. And we created a mobile app that allows users to order from every single restaurant within the market with one shopping cart. So they can order from 3 or 4 different restaurants, pick it up, and then go on their way. They don't have to wait in line or anything. We're also working on a concept called Virtual Sports Channel, which we're creating like a March Madness style tournament around like popular games like NBA 2K, NCAA, FIFA. And users can log on, look at current tournaments, fill out their bracket, and then follow along like our Twitch channel, see how their bracket does. And then whoever wins that gets a cash prize. So
wow.
There's no sports on right now, so we're trying to figure out, how can we get sports back into people's lives and keep people entertained. So.
I live with a person that would love to have sports back in his life.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. A question that's coming from our guest today, from the veteran perspective, and I guess I would pose this to both Kevin and Ben. Is there a transferable skill set that one needs to have coming from the military to transition into an IT career and or to Apprenti specifically? Kevin, do you want to jump on that first?
Yeah, I mean, so of the 29 people that we've placed in the past year and a half, 20 of them are veterans. So we tend to be a little heavier on that side. And, I think we placed one person who actually was doing what we would call tech stuff in the military, working on, not a developer, she is now a developer, but doing tech stuff, working on computers and help desk and things like that. Everyone else had mostly some technical thing they did in the military. They understand that they like technology and they'd like to make a career out of that. So that's one thing. They just touched some form of technology. We've got a guy that we just placed that was working at a military battery unit, right? So he's working on the radar systems and the technology that makes the missiles shoot in the right direction. And
Important.
it's important. Now he's a developer, right? So, and I think the second thing, and Ben mentioned it earlier, is you've gone, if you're a veteran, you've gone through basic training. You've gone through a technical training. You're used to being, messed with in mind games. You're used to getting in your head and going, this is just a game. I just got to get through this process, and I can do this. And if that person can do it, I know I can do it. And that's a mindset that I think most veterans have, because if you don't, you're out of basic training or tech school. But we do have some very specific roles. We place a lot of people with Amazon, and Amazon likes veterans that have top secret, special top secret clearances. So when they're coming out of the military with that TSSCI, and they come through our program, then we tend to place them with Amazon, and they go through their training, and then they work at some of their classified facilities. So there is that, but again, locally, we don't have anybody that was like a software developer in the military. They just knew they wanted a better life with technology.
Gotcha. And Ben, you mentioned that you were an MP in the military. What were some transferable skills that you brought from your military experience as an MP, or in the training that you went through, that are serving you well now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the most transferable one was what Julie mentioned, is just being able to roll up your sleeves and get into the mud, and just get the work done. Every veteran, just not being an MP, but almost every veteran has that skill and that mindset. So getting out of that comfort zone, being comfortable not being in your comfort zone, if that makes sense, like learning how to adapt and work with all various different people. Veterans have those skills. And you can apply them to anything in life, especially here in tech. And I think that for me, 100% was helped me get through this program. So.
I think the good part you just mentioned was the mental toughness. I think that I've noticed a lot of people that have been obviously veterans, or people that have been involved in even just sports. When I say it that way, I was a competitive figure skater for 15 years, and I started when I was 5, and I didn't stop till I was 15. And it's something that I just think is ingrained in you, is how you fall down and get up, and how do you keep going, and how do you hurt yourself and push through that, and how are you going to get out in front of thousands of people and put yourself out there, and you don't always do well, and you got to go back and do it again. So I think to people that have been through something challenging, whether it's a sport or something in their life or something that they've really had to persevere and work through, tend to be the people that really resonate with us, and the people that end up, I think, being highly productive.
Yeah.
And we look for that too. Obviously, that's something when we're interviewing 30-ish people to get down to the 6 to send to you. We are not moving forward people they can't tell me that. They can't tell us that they understand that concept, because again, it's a hard process. Don't let anyone kid you. Ben knows it's hard, and there are days you just want to absolutely quit. And with a lot of support and mental toughness, you get through it, and you do a great job.
Yeah, for sure. We're kind of getting ready to wrap up here. Just as we're moving towards the end of the program, just want to ask each one of you if you could share one thing about either registered apprenticeships and/or Apprenti with the folks that are on this call with us this morning. help them have a better understanding or appreciation, what would that be? I'll start with you, Kevin, because you probably got a prepared answer for that. But
There's a million things. Just if nothing else, it's a phenomenal program. I wish I had it when I got out of active duty and came back. I really wish I did. I had to talk White Castle into giving me an IT job back then, and I thank them for that. But the one thing I would say specifically to the people listening is that you've got openings. You've got openings. You're talking about diversity, especially now. Right now, you're talking about how important diversity is and how important it is to let new people into the tech talent pool. Everyone's talking about it. Printy is listed on Black Tech 614's call to action as one of the ways that you can make an absolute difference right now. If anybody wants to send that call to action, you can get it from Doug McCullough. You can get it from me. I'll send it to you. But if you're really serious about doing that, you got to do it. You can't just keep talking about it. And that's, again, I said earlier, this is a nonprofit where we lead with our heart. We're serving those people, and we want to get them into these jobs. We got tons of people, tons of diversity. These are all older, 32 years old is the average person in our pool. Just think about it. If that's something you're really serious about, then we're one way. There are other ways to do it, but just do something. Make a difference. That's important.
Julie, what do you think? One thing about registered apprenticeships or apprenticing?
He really summed it up in so many different ways. I just think right now it is such a strange time in the world. I mean, I think Terry said this earlier. I mean, I think things have changed now that we're in this pandemic, and everything we're doing has to be done differently. We have to think more innovatively. We have to be able to react to what's happening in the economy. And I personally agree with Kevin. It's about also doing the right thing and being able to help really good, talented people have a new avenue and a different way to do things. And that also is also going to benefit our organizations, and it's going to diversify our organization. So I would say if you have openings, it is something that's cost effective, but it's also just meaningful, and it's worth a chance and a shot and see where it goes. We're very new in our journey. I can give updates later as to how it goes, but we're hoping it's going to be very positive. And now that I know I also have other people on this panel too to reach out to and talk to and learn from, that's wonderful. And I just want people to know that are listening that we're here to be contacted as well and help in any way we can to make connections and to support the initiative.
Thank you. Terry?
I think the big thing is, you have a framework, you have a structure. In a lot of ways, Apprenti acts as the manager's mentors throughout the process. And really, to me, it's a no-brainer. You really have nothing to lose to try this process. You have an access to diverse talent pools. There's diversity, veterans, people with a desire and a passion to learn. And those are really the important things. I endorse it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, thank you. Ben, I'll finish with you.
Absolutely. I think that the Apprenti talent pool is just filled with people just like myself who are hungry, who just want to learn, and who just need an opportunity. So I feel like if you're a business out there who hasn't brought this on, like everyone said, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if you're, still on the fence, if you're a veteran or if you know a veteran or someone who would really fit into this program, let them know, tell them about it, let them talk to Kevin. Get them into this program. There's just tremendous amount of opportunity, and more people need to know about it, and more people need to know that they can actually get through the program. So,
thank you, panel. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Any follow-up to this from anyone on as one of our guests on this call, please feel free to reach out to the chamber, to me directly, and to those on our panel that can help as well. There are a lot of great points that you guys covered today, and I greatly appreciate you sharing your experiences and your expertise with all of us. Those of you who are on the call, within the next 24 hours, you'll receive an email that will take you to this conversation to revisit it. On behalf of the Chamber and the Columbus Chamber Foundation, I want to thank you all for supporting our Experience Series. Please continue to look for other offerings from the Chamber, not just in workforce, but in a variety of areas. We hope to see you all again soon. Thank you. Stay safe. Be well. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.